If you have just watched episode 3 of Preacher's final season, well, you're in the right place. Ryan here from GameSpot Universe, and I'm going to break down my favorite Easter eggs that I noticed from Deviant. As always, this video is packed with a ton of spoilers, so make sure you've watched the episode and read the comic books. If you haven't, go do that right now. Let's start in the past with the biggest callback to the comic books, Cassidy's backstory. For some comic book reference, I recommend you read Preacher issues 25 and 26 for the two-part story on how Cassidy became a vampire. In both versions, we find out that Prontius and his brother Billy leave their family to go off to war, fighting for the Irish Republican Brotherhood against British rule in 1916's Easter Rising. On the show, Billy is killed in front of Cass, who escapes to a nearby swamp and is then turned into a vampire. But in the books, the pair leave the fight together, camp out at a swamp, and in the middle of the night, Cassidy is attacked and bitten by a female vampire. Billy shoots it in the head, but Cassidy and the vampire fall into the small lake. He never sees his brother again. Cassidy tries to leave the swamp but bursts into flames at every attempt. He waits until the sun has gone down and finally realizes what he's become. Billy and the family believe Cassidy is dead, and he decides to keep it that way for good. Another difference between the books and the show is how the story is framed. In the books, Cassidy tells Jesse this story atop the Empire State Building. But in the show, we learn of Cassidy's story while he's opening up about his past to the Seraphim that's locked in the Grail prison with him. Personally, I prefer the comics version because it was a moment for the two male leads to bond with one another, something that we haven't seen much in the show. Also, the TV show really made Cassidy out to be a bit of a coward. I was a bit surprised to see him watch his brother die in front of him and not put up a fight. Clearly, this version of Cassidy is dealing with a whole lot of guilt. Another fun book reference was one that we brought up last episode, Jesus DeSade. We knew episode 3 was going to be packed with a lot, and boy did it deliver. Differing from the books though, this party featured a ton of furries. You can even find a couple of them on Twitter. Shout out to Cootsie Carter and Thylazor. In the books and the show, Jesse beats the hell out of DeSade after finding out that the young boy is partaking in some of the activities at the party. DeSade ends up going to prison in the books, but here Jesse beats him to death. But unfortunately in the show, we didn't get to see Jesse force DeSade's right-hand man, Harcourt, to eat his own gun. Let's talk about that epic hallway fight, a fight worthy of the House of Entertainment. It was a lot of fun. I don't think it's quite on the level of what we've seen in Daredevil, but it was one of the most epic Preacher fight sequences we've seen. It also seemed to be heavily inspired by one of the best hallway fight sequences on film, Oldboy. If you've seen it, you know exactly how good it is, and if you haven't, do me a favor and watch this movie immediately. Now this reference was a small one, but an awesome callback for comics readers.
Sex detectives, face on the floor, freak!
The sex detectives that arrested Eugene are straight from the books. It's even more appropriate that they showed up on the same episode as Jesus DeSade. In the books, Bob Glover and Freddie Allen end up at the same DeSade party that Jesse, Tulip, and Cassidy crash, not to mention Hair Star and the Grail. Some background on Bob Glover, the dude with the hat. His lifelong dream was to open a sexual investigator office, but he also got caught up in some shady circles, like supplying DeSade with large quantities of heroin. Cassidy himself tried to track down Glover after he found his girlfriend overdosed on his supply of heroin. In the books, it doesn't end well for Glover. So while the sex detectives didn't play the same part in the TV show, it was fun to see the reference pulled from the comic book pages. Finally, this is a deep cut for sports fans. The Seraphim literally channels Coach Norman Dale from Hoosiers.
Remember what got you here. Focus on the fundamentals that we've gone over time and time again. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're gonna be winners, okay?
Or not.
That's of course the legendary Gene Hackman reciting one of the best motivational speeches in any sports movie. The Angel is literally trying everything he can to get Cassidy up and out of the prison cell. I recommend he try Al Pacino's speech in Any Given Sunday. It's epic.
That's what living is! The 6 inches in front of your face! Now I can't make you do it!
Thanks for watching this Easter eggs breakdown. Let me know what your favorite is in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our video next week on episode 4. See you then.